All opinions expressed on any program are those of the producer and are persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of DCTV. All producers and guests appearing on programs provide information and opinions based on information they consider to be reliable. DCTV does not affirm the completeness and accuracy. All DCTV members agree to adhere to DCTV's statement of compliance and are participants in a community medium forum where they're exercising their freedom of speech.
Good evening. I'm your host, Karen Hudis, in this DCTV series about the network of global corporate control. Today's segment is pre-recorded and tells you how we're doing in the global currency reset. Thanks to DCTV, to Carmen Stanley, Project Director, to Maurice Jackson, Studio Director, and to Couchet Starnes, Audio and Prompter. I said at the end of March last year that the Banking Cartel, and especially the Black Nobility at the center of the Banking Cartel, need to start as soon as possible to make amends, and we are all going to take into account, starting from now, what they're doing. I've put this statement at the end of the teleprompter. It's necessary for us to begin to take stock of what they have done to make amends. To begin with, they haven't even conceded what their role is in the world's corrupt money system. They are not off to a great start, that is for sure. I also want to remind you of the CIA's attempt to bribe me with 1 million shares of CMKM. The CIA thought I was going to enrich them with CMKM. CMKX, that's another name for that stock, it's not getting funded from the Global Debt Facility. I'm the lawyer for the Global Debt Facility, and I vote the U.S. shares for the Board of Governors who administer the Global Debt Facility until the United States Constitution of 1789 goes back into effect. Ever since that attempted bribe, we have been on a Nantucket sleigh ride with the Banking Cartel harpooned. The Banking Cartel's CIA is mortally harpooned. Now let me remind you about my answer to Over East Taekwon's question. Karen, why are some people blind to the proof you provided about the nuke off the coast of Charleston, South Carolina in 2013? I was told by someone that it was fake news, but I don't believe it to be because of the information you've provided. Keep up the great work. The reason that some people are blind is because of the mind control technology. They're also called directed energy weapons and electromagnetic low-frequency weapons. We've mentioned these weapons in earlier shows. There is very widespread interference and mind control weapons. Few people realize that their brains are under attack. It's as if about 80% of the people, that's the ones who are susceptible to mind control weaponry, are hypnotized. I'm the first to admit that there are many people who are totally convinced by propaganda from the media and the mind control apparatus that keeps these dupes from seeing clearly what's going on in front of their very noses. I'm surrounded by family members who are victims of mind control, and I know very well how threatening that reality is for these victims. The only way to function during this transition is to love the victims of scalar weapons. More information about mind control is slowly coming to light. Those targeted individuals who realize their plight are mostly being kept in line through the banking cartel's gatekeepers. I reported in the DCTV segment 2 weeks ago the only progress, which is slim, is that there was one program in the mainstream media on mind control weaponry, a recent 60 Minutes show, and a YouTube interview with the reporters who wrote this story for 60 Minutes. It was devoted to mind control weapons. The reach of my social media is being limited to the individuals who already know where to find me and to word of mouth. Today I learned that the Scribd network is starting to refuse to post my information. This tweet was about Elizabeth Major, an agent of the banking cartel, trying to deny that I had already exposed how she tried to help syndicate couriers steal the wealth in the global debt facility by attacking the use of common law in the global currency reset. The common law is at the very heart of the global currency reset. It's worth repeating what I said in last week's segment. The passage of time without the banking cartel succeeding in stealing the wealth in the global debt facility helps. You can see readily that time is not on the side of the banking cartel. Internet Archive has been censored, so I just uploaded last year's tweet on Scribd. And I said it's time to implement the global currency reset. It also helps when I show how the banking cartel's agents end up failing, like the Taiwan group YCT that claimed it was supposed to access the global debt facility to clean up Fukushima. YCT claimed that it owned the assets in the global debt facility. That group invited me to negotiate a monetary agreement for the gold in the global debt facility. I refused to sign the letter of intent because there was no way to monitor YCT. I asked, how can YCT operate in this governance vacuum? My relationship with the critical mass is actually the cornerstone of the global currency reset. Our experience over the years is helping us to stay the course. It was early on the morning that we pre-taped this segment that I found a tweet where I had already exposed Elizabeth Major as a banking cartel agent 2 years ago. Elizabeth Major did not turn up in a word search in my files. A little bit later in the morning of the taping, a Twitter account in Japan liked a 5-year-old tweet showing how the county executives of America accepted the United States monetary gold reserves in the global debt facility. This is clear evidence of the critical mass that knows about the world's wealth in the global debt facility. This also demonstrates the way that the coalition predicted by the National War College's power transition model functions in the global currency reset. And so I asked, why did Twitter forget a link in my latest post? Thank you for reminding us of this now 5-year-old tweet. The global currency reset, ending corruption in the world's money and avoiding World War III, remains on track. Gold is at the heart of the global currency reset. Elizabeth Major was trying to conceal early DCTV segments on gold. When I uncovered that Elizabeth Major is an agent of the banking cartel, these early segments showed up. And so I published in December 2017 that humanity has used gold as money through the ages. On December 7th, 2017, there was an article in Russia Insider about how Russia and China are buying up gold to replace the Federal Reserve note as the international reserve currency. Russia has made it very clear that they are making all the necessary moves to stop using the Federal Reserve note as their primary currency to settle international trade. Gold will probably handle Russia's trade settlement just fine. This was how the banking cartel thought that they were going to force the unilateral surrender of the United States. As a critical mass of people know, the United States has access to its monetary gold reserves in the global debt facility. This is reality, and what the banking cartel is taking great pains to try and hide from us. Monoatomic gold, and that's where the atoms are not bonded together, when it's heated up, grows very light, and then it disappears. And the segment where I talked about monoatomic gold wasn't live streamed because of technical difficulties. And so you can read the teleprompter for the monoatomic gold segment. The best proof that the banking cartel exists is their attempt to censor and to hide. My point is that now that the number of people who know about the corruption in the world's money system has reached critical mass and we are embedded in reality, the banking cartel cannot hide and censor at the same time. The way my comments are getting censored on YouTube is proof of the existence of the banking cartel. This carries over into science. Ask yourself why the scientists at the universities have not given us an answer to the discussion about monoatomic gold, and that's also proof that the banking cartel is trying to suppress our knowledge. During the global currency reset, in addition to cutting off the flow of our hard-earned money to the banking cartel, we're going to have free flow of knowledge. We have a lot to look forward to. The key is for us to learn to work together. When the monoatomic matter, gold, disappears, it becomes gaseous, but in a higher order in matter, invisible. That's what Paul Jenkinson said. And I thanked him, but I said that I wasn't sure that I understood what they were saying. And then Leo Freeman said, "Hi, Hank and Karen, what's the most convincing evidence you can point to that this monoatomic gold story is the real deal and not just some hoax? If it does what they say it does, that is, disappear completely or transmute into some other element, then everything I learned in physics and chemistry is complete baloney, which frankly wouldn't surprise me one bit." And Paul Jenkinson said that it goes interdimensional and reverts back when it cools. And Leo says, "I just haven't watched the David Hudson videos all through. Since we can supposedly buy the stuff online, it should be a simple experiment to try heating it and see for ourselves what actually happens. If it's really as exotic as they claim, then we have a lot of textbook rewriting to do." And I'm going to tell you what I wrote about monoatomic gold in the teleprompter for my first segment on gold on the 25th of August, 2015. And I also am giving you the link in this segment. At the end of the tweet, I'm giving you the teleprompter for my first show on gold at DCTV. YouTube refused to upload it. It went to Internet Archive, and then Internet Archive censored it. They're still suppressing the number of views, and it broke many. The links that I had for the shows were also broken. That's just censorship. In the late 70s, an Arizona farmer named David Hudson noticed some very strange materials as he was doing some gold mining on his land. Hudson spent several $1,000,000 over the following decade figuring out how to obtain and work with these strange materials. In 1989, David Hudson was granted patents on these materials and methods for obtaining them. Many people are claiming that monoatomic gold, also known as white powder gold, holds the key to health, energy, and longevity. What is monoatomic gold? Monoatomic elements are made of single atoms not bound to one another. One strange and exotic property of monoatomic gold is that when heated to certain temperatures, it becomes very light. I've told you that the Banking Cartel is playing a very active role in showing me what is significant by their effort to censor it and hide it. The rest of my teleprompter has been edited and has to do with that part that describes David Hudson's work with the spectroscopy on monoatomic gold. I then did a little research on the web about this. It is that when monoatomic gold is heated, it disappears at a melting point. I had to use my laptop to read this article on the web because my PC is hacked, and I couldn't read the article on my PC. I had to do it from my laptop. The Banking Cartel has lost its effort to keep on stealing from us without our knowledge. That was what I said in a tweet. Well, this is all information that I was talking about a good 4 years ago. You can see that there's been a lot of progress now. And many people say that, well, the progress is too slow. But I can feel that we really are working ourselves loose from the Banking Cartel. I feel it very, very directly because when there's a lot of censorship and mind control, thoughts that I have, I don't follow through on. I usually have to take notes when I'm writing the teleprompters because if I don't, an idea that I'll have at one point will just go away and I won't be able to retrieve it. So I've learned actually now how to function with the mind control. And if you work to make yourself loose from mind control, you'll also discover ways of doing that. And so what I've noticed is that it seems to be there's some kind of limit, I think, on the number of personnel that are able to operate these very large machines. You've seen pictures of them in one of the commercials that I showed you in the beginning of the series. You saw a very large room where there were supercomputers. They need to use the supercomputers. What this mind control is its way when they want to operate on an individual. They have to track the brain activity, and then they have to try to duplicate the brain activity. It's almost like, and I've seen this in the web. It's almost like mind reading. They're very good at seeing which areas of the brain are getting excited, and from that they can derive what language is being spoken in somebody's brain, and it's like mind reading actually. It's very effective, and so when it's being operated, ideas and thoughts that you have, they feel like they're your own, and they're really not. It's like hypnotism. It's like a suggestion. And in the very beginning, I didn't understand that this was not coming from me. I just thought it was very strange that people that I normally wouldn't like or wouldn't give a second thought to, that I was spending a fair amount of time thinking about them. So once once you realize that that you're a targeted individual and that these people are operating supercomputers to try to give you thoughts internally, you're never the same. Really, you start taking notes when there's a thought that doesn't make sense to you because there are people who are resistant to these machines. When you start working with them, you understand how to limit their effectiveness. And actually, the best way to limit the effectiveness of mind control is to work together with a group, because the amount of manpower that the banking cartel has is limited, and because so many people are working their way loose from the mind control, that's how they're not able to get to everybody at the same time in real time. That's how you know that that we are working our way loose, and that's what's going on now. There are so many people that are active, and I'm in touch with a fair number of them. The other day, I got a very nice letter from somebody who's been there in New England, and they're working to try to limit the corruption in the assisted living facility where their mother lived. And then they just wrote me to say that their mother had died, and it was a very nice letter. I enjoyed reading it. Some people like to try to call me up, and I do limit those conversations because I won't be able to do anything if I'm just taking people's phone calls all the time, and I can't keep track of them. So if you want to communicate with me, please send me an email. You can use the contact page on my website, and so far I've been able to handle all the correspondence myself, and that's also a very good way for me to know how people are reacting. You also can see how people are reacting when you look at the comments in the archives for the DCTV segments that are uploaded on YouTube. And for the very longest time, the banking cartel was trying to use these comments. They were using sock puppets, which are fake accounts, to try to indoctrinate people that were interested in this subject matter. But if you look at the archives, you can see now that there seems to have been a pretty clear consensus, and the banking cartel isn't even trying now to censor that. I think they understand now that we really have reached critical mass, and so what we've been doing is we've been assessing how the global currency reset is going, and we're going to continue to do that, and we're all going to continue to work together and learn from each other. We're just at the very beginning of this, but as I've said, there's no rush, because it's really the case that all the military powers of the world are working all together. I don't know precisely who is in touch with whom. This is obviously going to be very classified, but they all do watch this show, and they understand that if they want to be paid, it's going to be coming from the assets in the global debt facility, because we are shifting out of paper currencies, and we're also going to be reconstituting all of our governments, and we're just at the very beginning phases of this. You see in the discussions about the primaries, really, if once you understand that the banking cartel and the Black Nobility is behind all of this, you realize that what they're actually trying to do is they're trying to create a lot of conflict. So the fight between the Democrats and the Republicans, and in local areas, various representatives. This is just trying to get people to be distracted and to be in disagreement with each other. And it's really comical when you realize what lengths the banking cartel is going to. So they're also trying to turn men against women and women against men. Now this, I don't think they're going to make much headway that way either. I think men and women basically like each other, and so there isn't going to be a war of the sexes. And there's all of the other conflicts, the long-standing conflicts, the conflicts in the Middle East. These are where the banking cartel has been trying to get us to fight wars, and I just don't think the troops have their heart in it. And the other thing is that there is a way for us all to be in communication with each other. It's called the collective unconscious. That's where we process all of our thoughts. Our thoughts are not processed in our brains. Our brains are like modems, and it's all processed in the collective unconscious. And so somewhere in our collective unconscious, we know that the tides have turned. All of this corruption is going to be rolled back, and it's going to happen. It's going to happen gradually, but most of the major shift has already taken place. And I've mentioned this to you. The healers noticed, I think it was August in 2016, that there was some kind of chaotic energy shift. It's taking us quite a long time to understand what we're trying to accomplish. The effort to conceal the world's wealth in the global debt facility is ongoing, but this task is doomed because a critical mass of people are aware of what's going on. There are many unknowns, including what happens to monoatomic gold when it reaches its melting point. By working together, we're going to find out many things. First and foremost, who we are. Until next week, I'm your host, Karen Hudis.